Good afternoon. Good afternoon to our colleagues in Costa Rica. It's an honor to be sharing from the Latin American Forum of COLEC and the Council Latin American of Social Sciences on this panel with such distinguished specialists in open science at an international and regional levels, and to focus on assessment issues, precisely on evaluation of science and research in the context of this anniversary week for the 10 years of the Declaration of San Francisco of DORA about the assessment of research. So very briefly, what I want to share with you is that after 2 decades of the first declaration of the Initiative of Open Access of Budapest in 2002, we have noted in the so-called mainstream current of scientific publication a strong tendency to commercialization of open access by charging for publishing in open the publication of books and articles in this mainstream. For this reason, and to guide open access towards the requirements of the recommendation of UNESCO on open science, which was approved by 193 countries in 2021, the new International Declaration of the Open Access Initiative of Budapest, published in 2022, recommends moving away from this commercial publication model and to choose alternatives managed by the academic community themselves without for profit. In this sense, there are different regional initiatives. Many of them have been presented in this conference. From CLASCO, we see as very positive, among others, the partnership of the green and diamond of open access or our region, for instance, through the recent cooperation agreement between La Referencia and Rovelli. We also like to join the different activities that are going to be developed throughout the week of Open Access 2023 with the slogan that community should be above commercialization in order to promote an honest conversation about what research or focus on open source give priority to the interest of the common good of the public order and the academic community, and which ones don't. Focuses that will be retaken at the summit of open access that will take place during that week in the city of Mexico, organized by Rovelli, and where these initiatives are going to be enhanced. From the Latin American Forum of Scientific Evaluation, FOLEC, we have in a recent declaration pointed out that was approved in June 2022 by hundreds of members associated to CLASCO in the region. The declaration calls for a new scientific and academic evaluation for science with social relevance in Latin America and the Caribbean. So we have been saying that there is a growing consensus about the need to incorporate new assessment practices that encourage open access in diamond journals and repositories, because they do not exclude authors because of economic reasons, and they allow concentrated peer review more on the quality of the research than on the journal in which it is published. So here we follow one of the principles of the Pioneer Declaration of San Francisco DORA on assessment of research, that we are celebrating its anniversary this week. In this sense, we believe in CLASCO, together with several partners in the region who are participating in this conference, the repositories and diamond journals for our region are one of the main contributions for open non-commercial access, because they are mostly managed by universities and academic communities in the regions. They charge to publish open, and they contribute to strengthen the non-commercial ecosystems of academic publications. that has been going around in Latin America and the Caribbean. With regards to the strategies to generate a cultural change of research and scientific evaluation that promote and acknowledge properly the openness and collaboration in science, different initiatives such as FOLEC and other initiatives, international initiatives, are betting on generating transformations at the policy level and the assessment incentives and the strengthening of infrastructures, something that have been discussed in depth during this conference, and also by promoting a culture of openness and collaboration in science through the training and education and dissemination of open culture among users and academic communities. Regarding the policies and regulations, we can stress that since the beginning of 2010, a set of legislation and governmental regulations throughout the region, such as the case of Peru, Argentina, and Mexico, that they started early to regulate open access to knowledge and the data of research in these countries, to which other regulations were added or guidelines that were a little bit more decentralized in other countries of the region and regulated by the higher education and university institutions. More recently, in the 2020th decade, in particular in 2022, both Chile has generated a resolution that regulates open access to publications and investigate research data. And more recently, Colombia has passed a regulation, a resolution about open science to be implemented in that country. So although we have a very robust set of policies and interesting policies in the region, we have noticed through different recent research in FOLEC that the incentive to the main components of open access to the open research data and in more general to other components of open science is still incipient in the regional assessment systems. But in particular, after the passing of the UNESCO recommendation and the adoption of different countries or to this recommendation, we have noticed an increasing trend towards the adaptation of the principles of assessment to the regional regulations, and also a search to design indicators, methodologies, and tools for monitoring, not at an international level, but also at a national level in some countries in the region. So this search for these methodologies, indicators, and tools that integrate and coordinate the open science components into the assessment procedures based on more holistic perspectives. In this sense, there are several challenges for the assessment systems to incorporate and properly value the production published in repositories and diamond journals. Some of these challenges include or refer to the fact that in each publication annual report in a visible place, we have to indicate if this publication has gone through a peer review and to describe this in the publication itself. For instance, in repositories, there are reports and books and other products of research that have been assessed reviewed by peers, but that information is not included in the publication nor in the metadata when they are entered into a repository. It is also necessary to get more international support as the one that has been expressed throughout this conference to accelerate the development of projects of the repository community in order to organize the non-commercial collaborative systems to carry out content assessment in the repositories, such as, for instance, the notified core project that was described in the previous session, and that I understand is also going to be related to this block on assessment, where we are trying to link the contents in the repositories with external open peer review services. On the other hand, the scientific assessment processes, both for the researcher history and the assessment of research projects and institutions themselves, it is necessary to acknowledge and properly value the publication in non-commercial open access and to value the participation in the assessment of contents in repositories and in particular also on diamond journals, because today all of the prestige is in publishing and assessing in the commercial international circuit. In this sense, there are some initiatives that at FOLEC we have been monitoring at the level of the national assessment systems that try to gradually incorporate these incentives for assessment and publication in open access through diamond or green paths. So joining the comments in prior presentations, we believe and agree with that one of the most important challenges is to achieve the interoperability of data and the research products that are stored in the different repositories in order to facilitate a more integrated access to metadata to make more visible these publications. As has been mentioned, there are some regional initiatives and international initiatives that have advanced recently along these lines, but they continue, it's still necessary to reach broader agreements in order to produce consolidated indicators about the index production that are more representative or better represent the diversity of knowledge in the region and the universe of scientific publications that exist in Latin America and the Caribbean. Along these lines is what we are working on in the Scientific Assessment Forum of CLASCO through different mobilization activities, through the production of different documents, intervention, and tools to consolidate different aspects of scientific assessment to be more responsible, more qualitative, inclusive, and diverse with a group of partners, many of whom are also in this conference. So thank you very much for the opportunity to participate and engage in a conversation with our colleagues at the table. Thank you very much.